So, from a fan perspective, you work with two of the most dynamic MCs of all time. So, can you take a moment to kind of describe what it's like working with Cool Keith in the studio and what it's like working with KRS One in the studio?
Oh, that's like going from Venus to Mars. It's like Chris, he usually comes in and he has a target where he's going, whereas Keith just comes in.
Right.
But, it's no one way to be great.
Right.
So everybody has their own methods, things that make them special. And that's what it was. Like for instance, when we did The Bridge Is Over, we did that in like 35 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
35 minutes?
35 minutes, because the engineer at the studio, he had booked us and he made a mistake. He had a session, it was 7 o'clock, and he had a session coming in at 8, and he knew we usually take more than an hour. So he was like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do it because I got a session at 8. It's a big lockout studio, and I don't want to mess that money up. So Scott was like, let us work to 8. If we out 8, if we ain't made a tape or nothing, we're just out. And he said, okay. By the time that was over, it was a 7:15. So then we got in the studio and I set the drum machine up, say 35, 40 minutes around there. And Chris already knew what he wanted to do because he had already had a demo of it, So he put the tape in the machine, started playing the beat, and it just had like stock sounds, which today would have been cool, but back then, drums had to be hard.
Right.
So I was like, that ain't gonna work. And like, all right, well, I pulled out, the Impeach the President samples. And like, all right, just do the beat. I'm gonna go in and practice the piano part. So he was in there practicing, and I put the beat down, and he laid it down. I did the crashes. Scott told me where to put them, and he went in and did the vocals, and we was out.
Okay, and another thing I wanted to ask was, what was your initial reaction when Cool Keith went solo and started doing albums like Dr. Octagon or Sex Style? What was your reaction to the music? Because these are like projects that's never been done before. Nobody ever heard anything like this. So what was your initial reaction?
It wasn't no reaction because that was the intent all along, was for Ultra to be like the bass. Because Keith always wanted to do the solo album. I just told him to help me because I wasn't ready to be solo back then.
Right.
So he helped me. So, and like I told you, when Keith shows up, it's anything goes. So it wasn't no reaction. It was just
okay. So you kind of already knew who he was and the type of things he would do, and you kind of seen some of these things come out in Ultra. Some of them, like Papa Large was like abstract record, like the original abstract record. So it's like we kind of see these things, but as a solo artist, he kind of like went all out.
Yeah. So it was more like it was unchained.
Right.
What he wanted to do finally came out.
Right. Okay. So can you just describe that process of getting the deal and finding the right situation for you guys? And, like if you got 4 members in the group, so, can you describe, like, was it like a long period of time to put the album out, or?
Well, getting the deal was hard. That was hard. Like, in that process, Keith actually was ready to quit, and I was ready to quit. After Keith came back, then I was ready to quit.
Right.
It was so hard, and it was just me and Keith at first. Then we added Mo. So when we got the deal, it was actually just me, Keith, and Mo Love. But what it was we had gave up on trying to get a deal. Okay. So we put out To Give You Love independently, this other guy. And it didn't work. So then when we had the Eagle Tripping, we didn't have the money just to put it out like that.
Right.
So what he did, because he had a little radio station show, he played it on there, and the response was so crazy. People went to the stores and was looking for it.
And it wasn't there.
Yeah, and you had a big order. So now all the labels were asking who was it and how can they get their hands on it. And it was through the help of Red Alert, DJ Red Alert in New York. He had set us up a bunch of appointments with all the independent labels. But we didn't make it past Next Plateau.
So Critical Beatdown, that's the class of like any publication that, you know, did album reviews, gave it a extremely high rating. Yet, you know, after this album, you switched labels. So can you describe that process of why you switched labels? Because in my mind, I'm thinking after an album like that, you would want to build on an album that was so successful.
Well, it just wasn't the label. If you look at the music business is kind of like how sports was. When they get a scouting report on the athlete, they stick to it. Even though when the athlete improves his game, they don't acknowledge it.
Right.
You know, like they say, he still can't shoot a jump shot.
Right, they're going to find something wrong.
So the thing was that Next Plateau had basically looked at me and Keith as just an underground group.
Right.
They didn't want to give us that commercial promotion. And like I said, it was a label thing. It just wasn't them. It was an industry thing, I should say. Because no matter what label we went to, they just looked at us as raw street. So There was no independent promotion artists. I mean, hired to work the stuff. It was just put it out there, let the streets order X amount of copies, and nobody ever, like things will happen. I'm trying to give an example. I'm gonna give an example. Like later on in music, what became famous before the vinyl and the music stuff stopped, all the record stores closed, was the record companies will put out an artist. They will heavily promote them, build up that, like what we had with Eagle Tripping at the store, and then they will ship gold platinum records. Mm-hmm. And what started happening was that period in the late 90s, a lot of the albums weren't good.
Right.
By that time, like that single would be the only cut.
Right.
So now the stores were left with all of this
copy stuff over. Right.
And they had a clause in their contract where they can return a certain amount of reserves, but they still were losing money because they couldn't return them all. And that's what killed it. So they never put us on that game where they wanted to ship those extra units. Right. We was always put to bare units. So, and we wanted to be put in that other spot, but they wanted like Next Plateau. He was used to promoting the more commercially polished acts like Salt and Pepper, stuff like that.
Right. So basically, Critical Beatdown was undershipped.
Yeah.
That's just due to label politics. It didn't matter how great the album was because, like I said, any publication you could look up, it's 9 out of 10 or better.
Mm-hmm.
It was a flawless album.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it still didn't get the marketing that it needed or the push that it needed to kind of push it to the next level.
And what makes Critical wild is that it finally went gold, or if not, it's close now.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps
selling.
Right. Yeah, and that's what makes Critical wild. That it just kept going and going and going. If it's there, I know it was close. The last time I spoke to somebody at Def Jam, because Def Jam now controls the masters and stuff. So they were saying it was getting close.
Right.
That was like a couple of years back.
So basically, because of those reasons, you guys switched labels and then you fuck your head up. So one thing I wanted to ask about that was, in a Source magazine, Cool Keith mentioned he was in a mental hospital. So I wanted to know how true that was and how that affected him.
Well, he didn't stay in a mental hospital.
Okay.
He just went there because he had a nerve problem.
Okay.
And the rest was just hyper blown up.
Okay. So it was just basically like a marketed play to
It's like if something happens, they rush you to the hospital emergency room, but they don't hold you.
Right.
Situation like that.
Okay. So another thing, like on fucking cars, like Cool Keith was going in, and he took shots at a lot of groups. One thing I always wanted to know was like the UMCs, because the UMCs sounds like an abbreviated ultramagnetic MCs, and then you look into the group as Cool Kim and Ced Gee, which sounds very similar to Cool Keith and Ced Gee. And the number one rule in rap is like no biting. So I wanted to know, how did you feel about that when you seen the UMCs come up and they had a really dope record with Blue Cheese?
Well, that's what I mean. With UMCs, it made you mad at first, but then when you step back and you look at anybody who wants to emulate you, it's actually a badge of honor.
Right.
That you've impacted some young people to the point where they want to actually emulate you. So, it was actually an honor.
Right.
Anytime someone emulates you, it's like today when artists hear lines from their records and other records, their name mentioned, you feel good because it made you feel like what you was doing was worthwhile.
Right.
As opposed to nobody ever doing things like that. Because, there was even people who say like Outkast was basically
right. That's a lot of similarities there as well that people don't talk about.
The thing was with a lot of groups, just like I said, we weren't known to be commercial at first. But then this is like later on, Lyor Cohen wanted to actually sign to Def Jam because he knew it was commercial. Underground was commercial. So other labels picked it up, and that enabled artists to be more free.
Right.
See, we were free.
Right, definitely.
So that enabled groups like Outkast to be expressive, to be free, and UMCs to have Blue Cheese and stuff like that. So, like I said, it's an honor when you see it in motion. You see, because we were so out there that I'm not gonna say the rapper's name, but he was from the very first generation of rap. He said Ultra actually was the beginning of the end of rap.
Really?
Yeah, and in a way, it's true, and everything has a double side.
Right.
Like this microphone. I can use it and talking to it is good, right?
Right.
If I take it and shove the mic down somebody's mouth,
right,
it's not good.
It's not good. Right.
So what he was saying was that when we started being extra creative, there was no line to it.
Right.
To where now motherfuckers is just mumbling.
Right.
Hey, yo, check it out. This is the Wild Cowboy with a lot of style boy, one of one. Punks him up to get beat down. Slow down. Hey, baby. And I'm here with Circle the Block. You understand that? The great Ced Circle the Block. Peace.
Right. So do you feel that you could have been a victim of your own creativity? Because y'all were so unique. Groups, not groups, but labels didn't understand what y'all was trying to do.
Yeah. Well, that's a fact because the president of Next Plateau, Eddie O'Loughlin, me and Eddie were solid.
Right.
We had our fights and everything, but like real family and friends go through. But Eddie told me, he said he just didn't really understand it. He just knew the streets loved it, and he wished he would have figured it out earlier. And that's why I respect him till today, because he always kept it a buck with each other.
So Public Enemy had a similar sound, and they blew up. Yeah. So how did you feel about that? Did you feel like y'all should have had similar success as Public Enemy? I mean, y'all was two totally different things.
Yeah, on the message tip, but sound wise.
Sound wise, it was very simple.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That was an honor once again, and that's why we all once again. See, people call Leo Cohen a culture vulture. But you need people like Leo. I don't look at him as a vulture. I look at him as a person who's observant.
Right.
Because I'll give you a perfect example. Well, before I get to the example, Leo wanted to sign, like I told you, he wanted to sign Ultramagnetic. Right. He wanted to take us off of Mercury Records. Well, he wanted us even before then. He wanted us, we were leaving Next Plateau. You know. But why that didn't happen when we left Next Plateau, we were still signed to Uptown Management.
Okay.
So we made that choice to go with Uptown. That's a long story, but we should have went the other way. But he knew it was marketable. And for somebody to know something's marketable and be willing to invest in it, you can't call them a vulture. You call them smart people.
Right.
I'll give you a perfect example. Public Enemy was doing the Black Steel video. Mm-hmm. You know, they had all of us rappers in it. That was a dope video.
Right.
So BET was there. So me and Chuck was talking to one of the program directors over there. And I told him, me and Chuck told him, we said, y'all guys should think about putting a rap show on. It'd be big.
Right.
And he literally looked at us and kind of snugged it off.
Yeah.
Then a few weeks later, Yo MTV Raps pops out.
Wow.
And it's huge. Now BET follows, but they was always in second place because of that. See what I'm saying? See, you have to have people who know the potential of something. You can't call them a vulture. Call them smart when someone can look and say, I can make money with this.
Right.
Whereas other people look at it and don't think they can make but so much money. Yeah. You see? And that was I'll give you another perfect example of that. In the first generation, you had Sylvia Robinson.
Right.
She had all the rappers.
This is Sugar Hill.
Yeah, Sugar Hill. She looked at it as a trend. That's why she treated all of them in business the way she did. She basically took everything.
Right.
You know, she gave them some money up front, and then they never saw anything else. Because she looked at it as going to be a hot run. Then Def Jam stepped in. They saw that this thing was real. And I'm not saying they treated their rappers royally. Let's say they gave them half the shirt.
Right, right.
But they got something. Silver, they didn't get a button. Well, they got a button because they got some upfront money.
Right.
They got the collar and the button.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Def Jam gave you half the shirt. And that's why they had their longevity. You know, some people see it and some people don't. It's not their color of their skin or whatever. It's visionaries. You have visionaries and you don't have visionaries.
Right. So another thing was, why wasn't the video version of Papa Large on the album?
Video version was actually a remix. That's why.
Oh, okay.
And the album version wasn't even the original album version.
Really?
Yeah, we had I did the production. I used Prince's Back Dance, and I chopped it up. And you know how I do with my chop ups. It was Bat Dance, but it wasn't Bat Dance.
Right.
I had put my little extra in there. So Prince heard it, and he said he wanted 100% of the song.
Wow. Right. So you had to go back into the lab and redo it.
Well, I didn't do it.
Okay.
Me and Keith didn't want to touch it. The label said we'll bring somebody in. I didn't like the version.
Okay.
You know, I'd have rather than went with another version I did, which went over big in the album pre-party. But the remix made up for.
Then, like, you know, moving on to the third album, you switched labels yet again. So do you think if you could have stuck with one label and had that stability, the group could have went further than what it did?
No. every move was, see, you know, I worked with Bill Cosby later on, and me and him really didn't get along. But there's one thing he taught me: if you don't like it, you don't complain, you leave.
You leave. Okay, so these label switches with YouTube.
So when you say one thing and you do the other, then you leave. It's just like the athletes today. They don't like the college they in, they transfer.
Right.
See? Yes, a lot of people from the old school think you're supposed to stay there and do all this. No, you transfer. There's 1,000 institutions out there.
Right.
Somewhere there's a home for you. We was looking at it, and the thing was that every time we left, this is another reason why Keith finally unleashed. Every time when we got to deal with Mercury, when we got to deal with Wild Pitch, they were double album situations. It was supposed to have been an Ultra album, then a Kool Keith.
Right.
Both places, he got his advances for his solo album, but he never got to do them because we had left. So by the time when we left Wild Pitch, I couldn't ask him to sacrifice anymore. He had sacrificed up and beyond. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I laugh at people when they say he left. I'm like, no, he did what he wanted to do finally. That's why we're still together today. It was never a situation where he left. He just wanted to get his other side of him in there.
Right, it had to get out.
Yeah, and you can't fault nobody for that.
Yeah, it's your boy, Aguilar Don Bishop. New album out, Endangered Species Protocol. And right now, we getting the interview live right now on Circle the Block Radio. You already know what it is, Propane Campaign. Let's get it.
I wanted to talk about a project you did, the Underground Show. Mm-hmm. I can't find it anywhere. So can you kind of give a background story on how you put that album together? And is it available anywhere?
It was just literally shipped from my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just a small project. It was just did the album, took a picture, stuck some stickers on some CDs, and sold them.
Oh, so you had actual hard copies?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. That's like one of the best projects I ever heard. Like the lyrics are so hard hitting, the beats is dope. Like it's timeless. You know, I can't put a word to describe it, but it's unlike anything I ever heard.
I give you one better than that. The Faction Fiction album, Fact or Fiction album. Tough City actually bought it from me. They haven't released it for their own reasons, but they bought it. They control it, but that shit is
right. I'm gonna have to.
I say that was me at my apex on there.
So when did the Underground Show initially get released?
That was, I say sometime in the 2000s. I don't know.
That's crazy. You don't even know.
Yeah.
But it's like the music is timeless. Like everything you said on that album is relevant right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is deep.
So that's why we called it the Underground Show. There's no way that was going to make it to any type of...
Right, because the stuff will fly over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah.
You know, but if you know, you know.
But there's still things that they just don't want to even play with. People they play with,
right,
and contemplate.
Right.
You know, so that's why it was called the Underground Show. And, you know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
That was, you know, like I said, that's how me and Keith do. We just like to put stuff out. But,
right.
But Fact or Fiction was actually on a label called 321.
Okay.
And we released the single Longevity.
Yeah, well, Woozy Woo. Yeah, I love that record.
And that first week it came out, it was looking like it was going to take off, because I remember listening to Tigger in the Basement. Mm-hmm. The DJ was spinning it.
Really?
Yeah. When it just came out, he was just playing the instrumental and they was talking over it. I'm like, my God. And the record label lost its distribution that week.
Wow.
So now the album was a free album. I got my masters back, and that's why I went over to Tough City and he got it, you know.
Right, and he never released it.
No. The reason why he didn't release it is because nothing really sells today.
Right, right.
So I guess he's waiting for an opportune time, you know, something controversial, whatever.
All right, man. And y'all better be circling the block for Circle the Block Radio if you know what's good, nigga. Nah, I mean,
I appreciate
shout out my
it.
man Darrell and True.
No doubt, no doubt.
So now, I also wanted to talk about Tim Dog, which is it's a very complex subject. You know,
it's not.
It's not.
It's simple. Tim became, let's just use the words, untrustworthy. He did some shady deals, and it caught up to him. He got sued.
Mm-hmm.
He lost those lawsuits, and he had to pay everybody back, and he didn't have the money. So the only way out was death. So he faked his death.
Wow.
And it took them 2 years to get the story right.
Right.
You know, it went from he died in a hospital to he died in a hospital. Went from his sister cremating him to no, the state did it. So it's just a game. I know because I was in the inner working.
Right.
So, and you know, he's probably somewhere, a doctor.
Right.
Yeah. Tim had game.
Right.
Smart. And if he could have just pushed in the right direction, the way he got in all those circles, he could have did it on a legitimate level. Tim was staying with me and my family.
Okay.
So, you know, we did some demos with him. And first one we was shopping was Step To Me.
Okay.
And I shot.
So Step To Me was before F Compton?
Yeah. But the one you heard on the album was different from the original Step To Me.
Okay.
So a lot of places was as hard. So then I went over to Sony Rough House and I played it for A&R named Kurt Woodley. Kurt Woodley was my boy, you know. No, Kurt, his brother. So Kurt was like, because this is just after we put out Chorus Line too. So I was looking to close the deal for Tim because he kind of buzzed for Chorus Line. So Kurt said, I'm gonna tell you how we can get a deal. He said, matter of fact, I can get you some demo budget to go in the studio and do this. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, take Tim, put him on a Chorus Line type beat. You know, he said, do what you do, but that type of beat, and have them diss them niggas from the West Coast.
Wow.
And we did it, and the rest was history.
Right. Right. So did you know, like, it was going to, like, spiral out of control with the East-West beef when y'all was doing this?
No, not at all.
Right.
You know, I kind of looked at it as, it was good that Tim went crazy, because this is just my theory. I think he was supposed to have been Biggie.
Really?
Well, they both look the same.
Right.
Dark-skinned brothers, cockeyed it.
Right.
Just that Tim went crazy after Fuck Compton. He went crazy. You know, he started stealing blank checks from the label. That's when he went into con man, Tim.
Wow, so he was a rapper first and then he became a con man. So I'm thinking he was like always con.
No, he was a rapper who saw, because he got hot, people believe. It's just kind of like Bernie Madoff. Once he saw that people with influence would believe him, with money and influence would believe him, then he became the con man, Bernie Madoff. Yeah. So they stepped back, they left him alone, and then they went and got Biggie.
So, do you think, because whenever you hear about Tim Dog, the perception is always that he wasn't a good rapper. You know, and like for example, he was battling, going back and forth with Snoop Dogg. You know, like I looked at that, like, you know, Tim Dog became like old school, and Snoop Doggy Dogg was what's happening now, but if you listen to the records, I felt like Tim Dog got the best of Snoop, or with Bitch with a Perm.
Yeah, Yeah, but the thing was, after Bitch with a Perm, excuse me, if you listen to Tim's second album, you know he was a con man, because the lyrical content compared to the first album
Right.
was two different worlds.
Right.
And that's when you knew he was concentrating on conning people. So after Bitch with a Perm, he became the con man, and the writing and his lyrics did go down.
Right.
Only difference between Bitch and the Perm and what Snoop did was that Snoop was on a label that promoted him. Like I told you, Tim's label had left him alone, so he was just on a naked island.
Right.
Maybe 10 people heard Bitch with a Perm.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, it was just, that was strictly his own doing. He had the label behind him, and he just, he chose to be a con man.
Right. So, in your opinion, all things aside, who won the battle in your opinion?
Snoop won.
Snoop won.
Yeah. Tim could have won, but he took himself out of the game.
Right.
You know how they say the greatest talent is availability.
Right.
So he took himself out of the game.
Right. Right. So, when you seen Tim Dog on Dateline, what was your reaction to that?
Just like I'm doing now, I laughed. Because I was like, wow, it's gotten to this level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's when you know it was out of control, when you're on Dateline.
Right. Right.
Felt sorry for the victims.
Yeah, definitely.
But, see, I always tell truth with everything.
Mm-hmm.
If me and you are partnering in something, and I'm supposed to be getting a share, and you told me when I get the initial money to send it all to you and you'll send me my money back,
right?
I'm gonna be like, look, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna deduct my share.
Right. And
send you the rest.
Right, exactly.
So they overtrust him, I guess. Gullible.
Right.
That's what he was finding. He was finding the gullible
single woman. Yeah.
Because it's one thing being gullible, but my thing is needing money, especially if I got responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, look, I can't wait.
Right.
So, because I'm picking up the check. See, I got the cards.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm going to take my share, and you'll get your share.
Exactly. Right. Because the one woman, she used her son's college fund. They gave it to him.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'd have been like, I got to replace that right away.
Right.
See?
But see, I understand it from her perspective because, she didn't know any better. Then you kind of look above like, oh, he did go platinum. He did have a number one record. So he must be telling the truth. So when he says, I'm managing Chris Brown or Mary J. Blige, it's like, it sounds believable.
But like I'm saying, you could be managing Michael Jackson and Prince. If I got the check and I'm old, I'm taking my portion.
Right.
Now, if he collected the check, then I just have to wait.
Right.
But if I have the check and I'm old, I'm getting my cut there.
Right. Most definitely.
You already know it's 40 Cal and you on Circle the Block Radio. Bow.
Okay, so yeah, like you mentioned before, you work with Bill Cosby. So can you kind of take us back and walk us through that process and your experiences working with Dr. Bill Cosby?
Well, Bill Cosby is arrogant.
Right.
Me personally, I know he didn't do any of the things they accused him of.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to.
Right.
He had money, that's why he was arrogant.
Right.
But he's just the type of guy that, okay, I'm paying for it, I'm taking care of you, so therefore you do what I say, when I say, however I say. If I say be at the studio at 10, which I have no problem with. But what I found out is that, come to look at that, I really can't be mad at him. Because like he said, he paid for it. So the project itself could have been shipped gold.
And what project was this?
The State of Emergency project we did that I produced with me and my boy Spaceman. We produced this album with Jace the Great, Hassan, and Supernova. We did a project with them, man. We had Universal wanted to sign the project and they were going to ship it gold. He chose not to. And he signed the album to a concert promotion company called Carol Lewis Booking Agency, who had no distributor, no nothing. So what was his intent for that project?
So, despite the classic albums, you know, Papa Large, you know, Kool Keith being an innovator, you being an innovator. So, my question to you is, do you feel like these lists could be an attempt to write certain groups out of history?
No, they're just commercial lists.
Right.
Where they just pick the most popular.
Right.
Because they're trying to be trendy. That doesn't even affect me at all.
Right. Because you still are who you are. You know
yeah, I mean, when you know your impact, you get to live it and see it. You know what it is, as opposed to something that's just commercial. That's life. So it never bothered me, to be honest. Like the stuff that do bother me with the 50th is that they had working with the promotion company, they had Nas company, and he had a lot of queens in the Bronx, right? Yankee Stadium. That was absurd. That, you know, Fat Joe had to be brought out, you know, and everybody from the Bronx had to be brought out. There was nobody from the Bronx on the bill. Right. That bothers you because that's disrespect.
Right.
That bothered me, you know.
Right, because hip hop
Chris, KRS had to be brought out.
Right.
He wasn't on the bill. See what I'm saying? That bothers me. That's disrespect. You know.
Yeah, it makes sense. I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you look at the fly, it was all West Coast and everybody on there. The only one from the Bronx was on there was Fat Joe. I say he came out, but he was the only one on the bill. And that was done through Ruben Diaz, local congressman. Fat Joe works with.
So another thing I wanted to ask was about like record labels, and basically what I want to get your opinion on is like the staff on a record label versus the artists. You know, it seems like the staff on record labels, they have a lot more stability. You know, they have, you know, benefits and things of that nature. But the artists that brings in the money don't get any of the benefits. Why do you think that is, in your opinion?
Once again, it became an industry norm. You know, the artist became the hoe, and the label was the prostitute. I mean, the artist was the prostitute, and the label was the pimp.
Right.
That was the standard. See, like I said, everything has a good and a bad. The good thing is, when the industry did change, the labels are now virtually powerless. You know,
right?
They're powerless now.
Right, that's a fact.
Yeah, and the artist controls more now. And now they reverse that. See, that was the 90s and 2000s. The artists took over. Now it went back to where the artists are prostitutes again. They're getting what? A penny for a stream?
Right.
So everything is like a cycle. Up and down, up and down. But right now the artist's on the bottom again. You're right. Like it's out. They're so devalued now. It's even worse than what you just said. A penny for a stream.
Right.
Meanwhile, that platform through paid advertisers are paying them, they're making way more than that.
Right.
But getting paid because that artist is bringing those views to see those, it's not good.
Right. Right. I also wanted to get your opinion on like groups in hip hop on a whole. You don't see groups anywhere. Why do you think that is?
Because the money's short.
That's something.
You get a penny a stream, you can't afford.
You can afford to divide the money.
You can't afford a group.
Right. That's every man for self.
Yeah.
Right.
Divide and conquer.
Right. Most definitely. Right. Okay, so yeah, can you take a moment and kind of let people know where they can find you on social media, what you got coming up?
You can find me at real REAL dot Ced Gee, CEDGEE, the real official Ced Gee. That's what it is. The real official. The dot real dot official dot Ced Gee. That's on IG. You can find me there, and you can also just find me as Ced_G on Instagram. But that's that, and got some things coming out. No need to speak. If it happens, it happens. It don't.
Right. No doubt.
That's what it is.
Definitely appreciate you, man. For taking time to sit and have a conversation. I definitely want to say, I appreciate all of your contributions to hip hop.
Appreciate it.
You definitely an innovator. My two favorite rappers is KRS-One and Kool Keith. You work with both of those MCs very closely, so definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, that was real quick. That was one of the greatest things about the 50th anniversary. The day after Yankee Stadium, the Bronx threw his own thing through Chris.
Yeah, and
that was crazy. That was crazy. I can't tell you how many people were out there.
Yeah,
and that was a celebration.
No doubt.
Yeah, it was an honor to close out with Chris.
Yeah, most definitely.
Peace, y'all. Yo, it's Ced Gee, Ultramagnetic MCs, here with Circle the Block Radio, doing what we do, which is big things. Peace.